Good evening, Roseville, and welcome to the July 19th, 2022 meeting of the City of Roseville's Transportation Commission. If everyone at this time could please put their electronic devices in silent mode. And anyone who wishes to follow along with an agenda, they're available at the end of the staff table over there or online on the Transportation Commission website. If you plan on speaking at tonight's meeting, please complete a blue speaker card and return it to the staff table. They're at the dais. Lainey, will you please call the roll?
Sure. Commissioner Lasrica, absent. Commissioner Fetzerson?
Here.
Commissioner Groff?
Here.
Commissioner Huskins is absent, excused. Commissioner Eisenhower?
Here.
Commissioner Probst?
Here.
Commissioner Radford?
Here.
And Chair Short.
Here.
Oh.
Perfect. Just in time. All right. Commissioner Eisenhower, will you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Yeah. All rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, before we go any further, Public Works Director Jason Tchaikovsky, I believe you wanted to make a few comments real quick.
Thank you, Chair Short and members of the Commission. As you know, Mike Dewar, our alternative transportation manager, retired last Friday. And so we have selected his replacement, Ed Schofield, who just got up and walked away. I guess he quit. Was selected as Mike Dewar's replacement. And so he'll be helping you guys out at these commission meetings and representing the Alternative Transportation and Public Works Department.
Thank you.
Oh, by the way, I guess I should say some nice things about Ed. You know, Ed did a great job in his interview. He's very well versed in transit, and he's learned a lot about bikeways and transportation demand management plans in his short time working for Mike Dewar. He did, like I said, an outstanding job during his interviews. He kind of blew everyone else away. I probably shouldn't have said that, but he really was a strong candidate. I think he has a lot of vision. He comes to the city looking to make things better. We're looking at things like microtransit and redefining our bus routes to better serve our community. And he has a lot of great ideas. So I'm really excited to see what he brings forward to you guys over the next few years.
Thank you. Welcome, Ed, and congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to move to public comment. This is the time for anyone who wishes to address the commission on an item, transportation-related item that is not on tonight's agenda. Speakers shall restrict their comments to issues that are within our jurisdiction and limit your comments to 3 minutes or less. With certain exceptions, the Brown Act does not permit us to discuss or take actions on issues that are not listed on the agenda. And if you don't mind, please state your name for the record. Is there any comment on a matter not on tonight's agenda? Seeing none, we're going to move on to item 5.1, approval of the May 17th, 2022 minutes. Hopefully the commission has had a chance to review, and I'll entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
Motion to approve minutes?
Second.
Motion, Commissioner Probst, second, Commissioner Groff. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Item is approved. Move on to item 6. Roseville Transit Service Change. Will you please have the presentation?
Good evening, Chairperson Short, members of the Commission. In March of 2020, COVID-19 began impacting transit ridership. Roseville Transit, along with transit agencies throughout the nation, experienced significant reductions in transit ridership. Because of the low ridership numbers, Roseville Transit implemented a number of temporary service reductions. The reductions were as follows. For commuter services, on April 6th of 2020, Roseville Transit suspended 7 of the existing 20 commuter routes. For local service, on May 26, 2020, with Sierra College implementing distance learning, Roseville Transit suspended the 2 routes that serve the college, routes E and G. When routes E and G were suspended, staff reallocated this service to the routes C and F to increase service frequency from every 2 hours to hourly, which is how it's operating today. These service reductions were implemented with the hope that COVID-19 ridership impacts would be short-lived and the service would return to pre-COVID conditions soon after implementation. However, COVID's impacts continue to impact transit ridership throughout the country, including here in Roseville. Roseville Transit ridership continues to remain well below pre-COVID levels. Because the service modifications have been in effect for more than a year, Roseville Transit is holding this public hearing to receive comments and present proposed changes for the future of the routes impacted by the pandemic. The following are the proposed changes for the commuter routes. For commuter services, staff proposes to maintain today's existing level of commuter service, which consists of 13 commuter routes. We have 6 a.m. routes and 7 p.m. routes. The commuter routes AM 1, 6, 7, and 10, and the PM 3, 4, and 8, which were suspended in 2020, will remain suspended until ridership warrants additional service. As you can see by the next slide, commuter ridership numbers are still significantly lower than they were today. Do you have the next slide? Oh, no. Sorry, there's one. Well, the last full quarter, since COVID came in, our quarterly numbers were 4,800 riders. That was our highest since COVID impacted our ridership, but that pales in comparison to the 34,000 riders that we had the quarter before COVID impacts. So we have seen a recent increase in ridership due mostly to high gas prices, but the numbers don't warrant additional service. Staff will continue to monitor ridership, not just the overall ridership numbers, but individual routes to decide if and when the suspended service should be added. Further, staff will analyze all commuter service as part of the upcoming comprehensive operational analysis to look at opportunities to increase future ridership. So for local service, here are the proposed changes. As previously mentioned, Roseville Transit routes E and G, which provided service to Sierra College, were suspended in 2020. At this time, staff proposes to reinstate Sierra College service once the fall semester begins on August 22nd. The Sierra College route will go back to being interlined or connected with the routes F and C, and all these routes will go back to 2-hour service. However, due to the proposed modifications for the Sierra College service, staff is proposing that the routes E and G will now be combined to one route, and that's the Route E. The Route E will be modified to provide more direct service between the Sierra Gardens Transfer Point, Galleria Mall, and Sierra College. And the map that you have in front of you, or up on the screen, the dotted lines show the area where the service will be removed, the old E and G, and then the solid route is the proposed new Route E. This more direct service is expected to be appealing not just to college students, but to East Roseville residents. These modifications are consistent with Roseville's short-range transit plan, which calls for streamlining the routes E, G, F, and C. Staff designed this route to streamline the E and G as recommended by the short-range transit plan, but included a stop at the Galleria, which, as a major destination in the region, should attract more riders. In addition to this route providing more streamlined service every 2 hours to the Galleria and Sierra College, Placer County Transit currently operates hourly service to these destinations. Staff has timed the bus departures for the Route E from the Galleria to the college to leave at the top of the hour, while Placer County Transit service, it will leave at the top of every other hour, while Placer County Transit service will leave at the bottom of the hour. This provides more riding opportunities for students with combined 30-minute service during some parts of the day, which is similar to our current routes A and B. Connected to this proposal, and in an effort to attract more ridership from Sierra College students, staff has been working with Sierra College, the Placer County Transportation Planning Agency, Placer County Transit, and Auburn Transit to create a Sierra College Student Pass program. I'll update you later this evening on that program. However, a big picture, this program, once implemented, will provide free rides on transit for enrolled college students. The Sierra College administration has asked transit agencies to take steps to help make the Student Pass program successful. This Route E proposal has been looked upon favorably by the Sierra College administration and shows the college that Roseville Transit is taking concrete steps to make transit service to the college more appealing for riders, which should help make the program successful. The proposed Route E will be considered a pilot program and staff will be monitoring the ridership over the next couple semesters to determine if additional changes are necessary. Also, the route will be analyzed as part of the upcoming comprehensive operational analysis. Ultimately, staff believes these proposed changes will result in increased ridership compared to the previous underperforming routes E and G. Lastly, for public outreach, it was been conducted consistent with the previously approved Title VI plan. A public input plan was developed to ensure the necessary outreach was in place. You've received all the comments to date, and that concludes my report at this time.
Thank you, Ed. An easy one for your first item, I see.
Hope so.
So before we go to public comment, commissioners, are there any quick clarifying questions without diving into the meat of this that you want to ask about staff's presentation? Okay, seeing none, we're going to go to the public. We'll now open the public hearing on this item. Again, please limit your comments to 3 minutes, and if you wouldn't mind, please state the name for our records.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good evening. This is my first time at the meeting. It's really the only area where public transit can be discussed, really. Rocklin doesn't have a transportation commission, and the PCTPA doesn't really have discussions. Anyway, I want to point to a map that I presented. I've been... My name is Peter Eklund, and I live in Rocklin, near Sunset and Pleasant and Park. Over the past year, I've sort of been looking at transit in South Placer, and I've been doing it sort of on my own. I've been involved in transit and transportation planning and traffic engineering for about 40 years. And I don't claim to know any more than anybody else, because it's a very difficult, challenging process. But I think I've come up with some issues that are worth exploring. And the major one is the overlaps between the needs of transit for Roseville and Rocklin. On this map, I've shown areas where it's both in the city of Roseville and Rocklin, and quite frankly, they have not been addressed in 15 years to any meaningful extent, and it's, I'm not sure exactly why. For this particular proposal, and I think in my memo I used the word strongly ejected, probably wrong. I think my objection is that it's exactly doing what is already being done that is satisfactory. There's no capacity issues. The areas are already being served. Between the Galleria and Sierra College, Route 10 and this route do exactly the same thing. So. And Route 10 has twice as many buses. They have one every hour and not just one every 2 hours. Between the Galleria and Sierra Gardens, this only has one every 2 hours. AB, which serves the same area with a little bit longer time, has 4 times as many buses. So you're putting limited resources in something where there's already enough existing service to provide, and I suggest that you look at, once again, at the integration issue, and I have 2 strong considerations. Right now, at the centers of Louis Orlando and the Galleria, there's reciprocal transfers when people have either day passes from either PCT or Roseville. Do the same damn thing for Sierra College. You have 2, it's the only other place where both operators operate. Just let each other have free transfers if you have a daily pass. Then anybody can ride any of the buses with just a day pass. 15 years, why hasn't somebody thought about that? I don't think PCT would object to it. I don't. The other point I'd like to put out, I have looked at alternatives of what the future, and on the back of the 2-page thing I gave you, what I think should happen is Route 10 and Route 20 should do different things, but both go between Galleria and Sierra College. One of them can make a really good, what used to be Route EG. It can actually provide service to Roseville residents. Comes down and to Rocklin residents, above the boundary, comes back down, goes down Secret Ravine. This is several times, this is kind of service on this street has been requested in the unmet needs survey. Goes down Secret Ravine, comes down to Roseville Parkway, and goes over to Galleria. And that could be done in half an hour. With the same resources you're putting into existing service, you could provide that on almost on an hourly basis, and you would get service at the Galleria every half an hour to Sierra College. Okay, for Route 10, then what it does, rather than getting on the freeway like Route E, which wastes a bunch of time, it continues down, Taylor turns until Pacific turns into Taylor. It keeps on going into Roseville, goes down to Roseville Parkway and goes over to Galleria. Okay, so you're providing additional service to Roseville, and additional service to Rocklin. That can be easily done as long as it gets down to what's being done during the South Placer project, and that's a whole other issue. But those things can be done. Everybody benefits. Roseville benefits. Rocklin benefits. And we're not just pouring service into an area that already has existing service. We're putting it in areas where there's existing needs and nobody has bothered to talk about them. And I've put together these things. I've sent things I'm talking to you about. I've sent them to Ed. I've sent them to Mike. I've sent them to Will Garner over there. And I'm just a person out there. They don't have to respond to me. I've never had any written comments from any of them. On the other hand, very pleasant conversations, and I respect them because they don't have to talk to me. But
Please wrap up your comments.
Just one final comment. We're getting into a period which is really critical to the whole future of transportation. And one of the things that happens is the emphasis on integration, which Mike Lucan has picked up on. There will be a joint development of short-range transit plans, and some of this integration can take place. If we don't sort of, from the start, recognizing that has to be done, it's going to be a worthless thing. So I encourage you to really emphasize this thing about integration at a very fine level of detail. Anyway, so if you go ahead and do it, and that's fine too. I mean, you're providing additional service. It's marginal, and I don't think it's going to make at least work with PCT so you get the reciprocal transfer for day passes. Okay, that's a no-brainer. It's good for everybody, and there's so much that can be done, and that, I think that would just be a good step to show everybody that you're interested in integration.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to make a comment from the public? Seeing none, I will close the public comment, and we'll bring it back to the commission. We'll go questions. Start on this side. With Commissioner Festerson, any questions of staff?
I don't have any questions this moment, but I think as we go through the commissioners, there's going to be things that come out that I want to hear also. So I don't have anything right now. Thank you.
Commissioner Eisenhower?
Yeah. One question that I noticed on your proposed map here is that a significant portion of the proposed Route E will take 65 to 80 up to Rocklin Road and over. That is basically negating service to a large portion of the route. Can you justify that portion of the route being mostly freeway and unserviceable to a reduction in time or to an increase in efficiency? That way we can relate to not being able to service a larger portion of traffic.
And actually, if I can piggyback on this question, are there specific stops that are being eliminated, and how many people are being, how many regular users are being eliminated?
Well, I think, so to start with, the ridership with the ENG pre-COVID was extremely low. I mean, to the point where, I mean, our numbers were about 10 riders a day. I mean, it's, significantly low. The areas that we're not serving on the Sierra College Boulevard, if you've been out there, that's not real conducive to transit ridership, right? It's almost like a freeway out there, 2 lanes, 4 lanes. So we didn't feel like we were removing or losing ridership by going out there. And then when you get down near Douglas and Eureka and Sierra College, you do have the Route L, which overlapped. So we thought we could continue, or we could get what ridership we could there with the Route L. And so ultimately what we're trying to do, well, obviously was trying to improve ridership, but to do a more direct route between the Galleria and the college we thought would be appealing. It would get us more ridership, albeit most of it should be students, I would think, as part of the free pass program. But there's also a benefit to just going to the Galleria. I had mentioned that the C and F are interlined with the E, and that means that essentially the same bus does those routes. And the C and F, they do the same route except different directions, kind of like the A and B, if you're familiar with the A and the B. One goes clockwise, one goes counterclockwise. So if you're a rider of the C or the F, even though it's 2 hours, which I agree is not ideal, you can still get it every hourly because you can cross the street, get the nearest stop. If you get the C, go in one direction or the other way with the F, if that makes sense. But if you board it, you now have a 1-seat trip to the Galleria, which we think is our major destination in this region. We have other destinations, but we thought tying that route in with the Galleria would be a good selling point for existing and future riders. And then from the Galleria, I realize that's, you're not getting much from Galleria to the college, but we feel like we will benefit because of the student pass program and the directness of the service, that we should attract more riders, and definitely more than what we were attracting with the original route. Does that answer it a little bit, hopefully?
Are you looking at a travel reduction time between the current route E and G to your proposed route?
Yeah, it is a travel reduction time. It's less time, compared to the E and the G, because you're not going out to Sierra College Boulevard. But going to the Galleria adds a little more. But overall, it is a reduction in travel time.
And is there current capacity at the Galleria for this bus route? Because you go to the Galleria when all the buses are showing up at the same time, causes congestion. It's a great picture to say, hey, look, we have a lot of buses that you guys could hop on, but is there going to be added capacity, or is there current capacity already slated for this bus route?
Yeah, we have the capacity for those times. That's a really good point, and that's something we have to look at, because we do get comments from the Galleria occasionally that, we have a lot of congestion out there, usually during the holiday season. But we think with the arriving at the top of the hour versus the bottom of the hour gives us some additional capacity out there. So that shouldn't be an issue.
Okay. And being that it's every 2 hours, last question, where does the bus go during the off times? So if the bus is going every 2 hours, is the bus used for a different route that is then serviced also every 2 hours? So that way you have the bus being utilized more time throughout the day as well as the employee? Or does that bus sit vacant and empty somewhere?
No, it's, as I mentioned, it's connected to the C and the F. So the C and the F route run on the same bus. So you go C, for instance, you ride the C route, and then it turns into the E at the Sierra Gardens Transfer Center, goes out to the college, comes back, and then the Sierra Gardens, it would turn into the F. So it goes C to E, and then to F, runs that route, and then becomes the E again, out and back, and the C, and it does that. And so that's what we say when they're interlined. That's what we mean is one bus is serving all of those routes. So there's not a lot of downtime, but there is a layover, and that will take place at Sierra Gardens. But it's not much. It's, for the operators to relax or restroom break or something like that.
Understood. Thank you.
Commissioner Radford?
All right. I wanted to thank Peter for his comments, and you do bring up some good points. Unfortunately, it's just the reality. Ridership has gone down, and once public transportation does pick up speed again, I'm confident that we will have some collaboration with TPA. We have some good folks over there, and hopefully we'll have another opportunity for a countywide transportation measure that can also put some more oomph back in this, for lack of a better term. I did like the collaboration with the college and the ridership. I'd be interested to see what the parameters were with it. I mean, if I take one class, can I ride the bus every day? I mean, I don't know. I would like to see it for its intended purpose, and I think it's terrific. I know how college students drive. I remember driving to Sierra College, and I'm surprised I didn't get more tickets from Gruff over there and his folks in Rocklin. But I love that idea. If it's the best route, that's what the analysis is for. It seems like that's where the most ridership would be. So I'm interested to see how it's implemented, and hopefully we can get the ridership back up. And I want to thank you for your report, Ed.
Thank you.
Commissioner Probst.
I just wanted to say that I started using the commuter service more than a decade ago, and as I work in Sacramento, and out of all the services I've used, it's probably my favorite. It's eminently reliable, it's safe, it's well operated, it's very on time and dependable, and it's been an integral part of my life in saving me from having to drive to Sacramento, which to me, frankly, is worth an extra $50,000 a year, to say nothing of parking. So I really appreciate how you guys have extended and kept so many routes open, because ridership really did plummet. I mean, and I can't even imagine how crowded it would be if we weren't in the COVID situation with gas prices, because every time gas prices went up 20 or 30 cents, you'd see, those people get on the commuter bus, that didn't, reach their break-even point with driving. So I really appreciate that. And I think that, it's sometimes we just have to operate a service at a loss, and I know you guys are doing that, and I just wanted to extend that, both having been a person that took transit when I was a college student, and just having ridden this service for 10 years as well as a local route occasionally, you really do help connect people that are challenged, have mobility issues, maybe they're trying to get to a job or a job interview, and that helps them get disposable income and help improve their quality of life. So I know that sometimes maybe the numbers don't add up, but viable and dependable transit for me has been a huge thing in my life, especially when I really needed a helping hand. So I appreciate what you guys do, and we support you all the way.
Thank you.
Commissioner Groff.
Yeah. First of all, welcome, Ed. I know you've been here for a while, and we appreciate your work, and excited to hear what you have in store for us in the future. Also, just a comment about Sierra College. There still is a significant amount of classes that are online, and that's still going to take place for this foreseeable future. So I'm not sure if in the foreseeable future, a year or so, or maybe even more, that we're going to be able to see true numbers that were pre-COVID. So that might be something to consider. Myself, I also teach at Sierra College, and my class has been online since spring of 20. Where traditionally, prior to that, I was teaching on ground. And there are several other classes within my division that are still online, and no foreseeable future to go back on ground. So it's just the demand that the students have created by themselves to stay online. Something to be considered, that this isn't going to happen anytime soon, from my personal knowledge. Also, great presentation. We appreciate that. Can you just briefly explain just a little bit more about some of the considerations that were had, or the concerns that were taken into consideration about reducing some of the availability in terms of how can I say this? We know the ridership is going down, but how is it that these particular lines were determined at particular times Was it purely ridership numbers? Were there surveys done? Were there ridership counts? Is there just a little bit more you can add to that?
Yeah. Are you specifically the commuter routes?
Yes,
Okay.
actually. Yeah.
Yeah, because the ENG, that was mostly driven by the college going remote learning. For the commuter routes, it was ridership numbers as part of it. We did take our lowest numbers, but we also looked at those routes that had almost overlap service, like not much of a gap between service. So if you took it away, the next route bus would be there either 10 minutes earlier or 10 minutes later. So we tried to reduce the impact. So not only did we take into account the ridership, but also the additional service at those park and rides. So we tried to limit the impact that way.
Okay. All right. Appreciate it. Thanks.
Good.
Commissioner Lasirica?
Yes, as far as attracting the Sierra College students, I know that Sierra College has a calendar, so maybe implementing where the routes are and then when they're leaving may attract more students, so then they know like where to meet and then where it's going. And then maybe also having a banner at MyDo above the COVID testing might attract more East Roseville residents. And you could probably include the free ridership for Sierra College students as well. And that's all I have.
I would just comment that as part of the Sierra College program that we'll discuss, we are going to do a significant outreach, a joint effort with the other agencies as well. So I'll definitely include the banner idea in there. Thank you.
I have a few questions as well. So thank you for explaining the methodology behind kind of deciding which commuter routes to drop or which times. How do you know when to add them back? Obviously, you can kind of look at ridership to know when to drop them, but how will you know? Okay, now we need for sure that this will be the right one to add, and when will you know that?
And that's a really good question. I think it's more subjective in that we're going to be reviewing, we're going to work with MV to get regular counts. And in my presentation, I mentioned that we're not just going to look at overall ridership because we may have some routes that are doing better than others. And so I think when you start having standing loads on your routes, I think that would be a good opportunity. And I realize it fluctuates by day of the week, and we're still trying to figure out what the new normal is as far as commute patterns go. But we have regular meetings with MV, our transit operator. They're over here. We meet with them regularly. We hear about how the ridership's doing. And so we definitely have the capacity now, but we will be observing it in the coming year. And then I have been continuing to mention the comprehensive operational analysis, and that's going to be key because we're going to look at the entire service, and that's kind of an 18-month process that you will all be actively involved in. But we will be looking at that as well. So we'll be monitoring it day to day, and if we start seeing the crowds, which would be a great thing, we have the ability to add it. And then at the same time, we're going to be doing a kind of a major overview and maybe looking at some major changes, later after the COA is complete.
Thank you. And then to some of the points brought up by Mr. Eklund, can you remind me how Roseville Transit and our passes interact with Placer Transits? If as an example, do we honor them everywhere? Is it just in those locations? Would it be honored, their pass be honored at Sierra College if someone was trying to get, say, here to the Civic Center?
No, we have a couple locations where we do the transfers, the major transfer points, but it wouldn't happen at the college, although the thought being at the college it's going to be all students, so then it works on either bus. I think Peter's point is a good one, and I think it's something we should look into. I haven't been part of the past transfer discussions, but we have a really good synergy with Placer County Transit and Auburn Transit. We've built very positive relationships, starting with Mike and myself, and I feel like you'll be able to see some of that, and I think some of the jurisdictional boundaries maybe we can get beyond and So it's not ideal right now, but it is something we can look into. And with the COA, we can look at that as well.
Well, and that kind of leads into the next point I was going to make, was I don't think, in my opinion, the items raised by Mr. Eklund aren't enough to have me hold back on what we're trying to do. But I do hope that we are looking at how to be efficient with our resources, with our transportation resources, not only with our other transportation partners that you mentioned, Placer County Transit and Auburn Transit, and PCTPA and all the rest, Sac Metro, but the city of Rocklin as well. I know they don't operate their own unique transit service, but obviously they have a stake here as well. And I do hope our communication with them can remain strong. I did hear some concerns about that from them. I'd also, maybe as part of that, and I understand that given what you're going to talk about, I think next, it may not be relevant anymore, but I think it could be made clear that because if they do have that student pass, that gets them on ours, and that'll be the overwhelming majority of ridership to Sierra College, we think.
Yeah.
So that something I think could be put out there a little bit better. And then only other question I had was, as we talk about kind of the route elimination, and I know there are concerns on the east side. I know also living out there are concerns on the west side. And I know you're going to be doing the comprehensive analysis, and I know that's going to be your answer, but we're still looking at microtransit and how to bring that on board, and that'll address a lot of these concerns when we are able to bring that online. I mean, yeah, it's kind of a comment. If you have anything to add to it, feel free, but that's kind of my thoughts on that matter.
No, I would just, we're in line with you there. I mean, East Roseville and West Roseville, both, there are some gaps in service that we would hope to address with microtransit. And we're heading that way, and I'll give a brief update here in just a few minutes.
Well, you've been building up your report, so why don't we get to it? Would anyone like to make a motion, and I'm going to read this so that you don't have to. Would anyone like to make a motion to recommend to City Council to approve the continued reduction in commuter bus service due to COVID-related impacts until ridership numbers increase to a point where additional service is necessary, and recommend the City Council approve the proposed local service changes as outlined in this report for routes E, G, F, and C?
So move, Commissioner Radford.
Do I have a second?
We have a second.
All right. So motion Commissioner Radford, second Commissioner Festerson. Do we need a roll call or can we voice? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. The motion carries. Thank you. All right. Is there any reason I couldn't do the staff report before the commissioner report since we've kind of been building it up? That'd be all right, Joe?
Yeah, that's
okay. I'm gonna ask for staff to give their reports first, then, as we move on to item 7.
Okay. Thanks, Chair Short. As we've been talking about the Sierra College Pass program, I just wanted to give the commissioner an update because we briefed you on it in the past, and it's coming together here. The goals of the program. We collectively agree that there is the need to increase student access to available public transit, to increase student transit ridership, and create a new generation of transit riders. So we'll continue to work with our partners on the details of the program. Currently, the program allows any eligible Sierra College student, whether it's one unit or a full load, to board any fixed route service provided by Roseville Transit, Placer County Transit, and Auburn Transit without paying a fare. Each student will display a valid form of identification to the transit vehicle operator when boarding the bus. Sierra College has agreed to pay for a share of the costs. The current plan is for Sierra College to pay for 50% of the average fare of each student that rides. So each transit agency will keep track of the college student ridership and will invoice the college for payment at the appropriate time. The details are basically being finalized now. The reason I wanted to brief the commission is that we expect to go to the council on August 17th, hopefully, August, for approval of a 3-year pilot program that would start the fall semester, which is August 22nd. We'll keep you updated on the progress of the program in the coming months. Needless to say, we're very excited about the opportunity to encourage more people to use transit. We hope that the free fares and the route modifications to the Route E that we just discussed will be good incentives to get on the bus. So I'll pause there before I get to microtransit, if anybody has any questions.
Any questions from the commission?
Yeah, I have one. The student pass program, do you have any data currently that would show that the pass program will actually have success in increasing ridership? And do we know how many current students come from the Roseville and Rocklin area to Sierra College versus points outside of the region?
We do have data, and I apologize, I don't have it with me as far as it broken down, but there are a lot of questions as to if it'll be successful, because there's a lot of unknowns, right? We're just starting to come back to in-person learning, and as has been noted, it's still not full-time. So part of this is, like I said, a pilot program so we can monitor its success. We've also taken the steps to try to help make it successful, and that's what I believe the Route E modification does. But with all that said, we don't know for sure. We don't know how many students are going to ride. We do have some data from earlier with the E&G. It was pretty minimal as far as student ridership, but it was mostly because it was kind of a roundabout way of getting there. So there are questions, but I feel like we're doing what we can to help make it successful, but it's being set up so that if it does not meet our expectations, we can make changes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Further questions? Thank you.
All right. Next update is on our microtransit service. And as I'd mentioned in past meetings, we did a joint procurement with Placer County to select a vendor to provide microtransit services in the city of Roseville. The rides are scheduled using a software provided by this Microsoft company, similar to Uber and Lyft. And I think I'd mentioned we received 9 proposals in January. We did 3 interviews with the finalists. In August, we are expecting, August or September, expecting to go to the council for approval of hiring Spare Labs to provide the software to run this service using existing Roseville Transit vehicles and operators. Spare Labs has been in business for 6 years. They currently operate in 100 transportation systems worldwide, and they have 65 transit agencies in the U.S. Locally or in the area, they work with Reno, Calaveras County, and then they also work with Dallas, Lincoln, Nebraska. Some of those that just come off the top of my head, but we're pretty excited to get them on board. Our current plan, once the council approves it, is for staff to work with Spare Labs to do simulations of service within the city of Roseville to determine what area of the city will be the location of the first pilot program. So our assumption is it's either going to be East Roseville or West Roseville, but we're going to use simulation, not just our subjective, but we're going to incorporate our knowledge of the city with their simulation. So we'll be determining that. The launch of the microtransit program is expected later this year. We're planning on using the existing dial-a-ride buses. However, I'm not sure, but I think I mentioned last time that we received grant funding to purchase 4 microtransit vans that will provide a unique look to the program, and it'll replace the dial-a-ride buses once they arrive later this year, early next year. So once again, we're pretty excited about the program. Staff believes it's the beginning of a new era of transit in Roseville. If this pilot program is successful, as we've mentioned, we will look to expand the service to other locations within the city. So we'll continue to provide the commission updates, and then once Spare Labs is on board, I would like to have them come here and do kind of a more detailed presentation so you're all comfortable with how it works and they can answer some of the questions you have. So that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Ed. Any questions on the microtransit item? Start on this side this time, actually. Just anyone over here have any? None? Okay, I'll go back over here.
Yeah, I have one for you. During your microtransit assessment, have you looked at attraction destinations with Bluetooth big data within the city, with current regions that you might have identified that would show where successful routes would be placed for microtransit and just regular transit in general?
We've done some observations, but I think the microtransit company that comes on board will provide a lot of the simulations. And honestly, I haven't seen the simulations, but they talk about that's their step one whenever they come into a new market, is they run these simulations, and it's supposed to be a pretty good indicator of where the service will be successful. And so I think we're kind of waiting to see how that comes out. I mean, we think that we have a good idea of where the service should be, not just the first part, but the future expansions. But I think we'd wait to see if the simulations support that. So I don't know if that fully answers your questions, but it may be more of a wait and see with once Spare gets on board.
Yeah, it's mostly just how do they gather their data, and are they paying attention to current routes that people that are currently driving, say, single occupancy vehicles are able to then justify changing over to a microtransit option. That's kind of what I'm basing it off of. And then follow up, are we looking at putting in microtransit in areas that service has been reduced due to COVID to therefore allow those individuals to have some type of transit to and from a destination that they would therefore be able to still access? So thinking of Southeast and East Roseville to shopping centers along Douglas that then allows them to have access to primary needs such as groceries or everyday needs.
Yes, we would be looking at that, but we also look at West Roseville that has had no service, right? So that's also a consideration for us. So yeah, we would just have to look at both areas. And who knows, there could be something else that comes up through the simulation that says, hey, this other area may be even a better option for you. I would be surprised, but it is, what we'll just have to wait and see how it plays out. That we'll definitely keep you all posted, and maybe I could provide better answers when we have Spare on board and they can talk about how they gather their data and how the numbers are put into the program.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, one of the big things about this pilot project is just proving the concept that microtransit works. Just because we select an area right now to test the pilot doesn't mean it may not change during the comprehensive analysis that we're going to do. When we do the comprehensive operational analysis, we are going to take a really deep look at where people want to go, where they are currently going, who would likely ride transit, how can we encourage them to ride transit, what kind of transit would they ride, what kind of headways we can get, how we can use our existing resources. The idea of this comprehensive analysis is really to blow up the system and say, hey, take a look at Roseville. These are the pieces we have. These are the people we have. These are the places they can go. How do we make it work the best way possible to really serve the community? We have a transit system, and quite honestly, I'm pretty impressed with our transit system. We have these buses riding around. It makes us look like we're, a big city sometimes. But I think we need to figure out how to make the best uses of our resources, and that will include using big data, Bluetooth tracking, Wi-Fi tracking, that type of stuff to figure out how to really make our system work for the community.
Thank you.
Yeah, I might have missed it in the report. The 4 vans that we've got the grant funding, good job, whoever procured that, well done. I'm assuming they're going to be alternative to fossil fuel, electric, or possibly hydrogen. What are we looking at?
Yeah, I kind of buried the lead there. They are electric vans. And they'll
Fantastic.
Yeah, they look nice. And we got that idea from a couple of the other agencies that have been really successful implementing this. So yeah, we're pretty excited. And I think at one point, Jason and I went and drove the electric vans. So we have firsthand knowledge of how nice they are. So we're pretty excited about it.
And once we have them, I think this, I speak on behalf of most of the commissioners, we'd like to do a tour of the, some of the current projects. Jason was an excellent host the last time, but it was very tangible to see the projects that we discussed upcoming and the ones we were able to actually complete. So I think that'd be a good opportunity maybe next season to do that. So challenge flag set.
And we enjoyed that tour. I think us and Suzanne's out here, and I know we had a really good time kind of showing off what we've been working on. So we would like the opportunity to do that on a regular basis if the commission's up for it.
I have one more question on the micro transit. Actually, the vans, would they be the same drivers that we use for the buses and for Dial-A-Ride would also operate the vans? Or
Yeah,
are they
it'll
different?
be operated through the MV contract.
Good. Glad to hear it. Okay, that is it then for staff update. Thank you, Ed. Commissioners, any update from up here? We'll start on this side again. Anyone up here? Okay, this side. Anyone have anything to? Well, Commissioner Radford stepped on mine. Oh, did you have one?
Yeah.
Go for it.
You first. Thunder here, 'cause
No,
I know
do
you were
it.
going with
Do
that.
it.
So, Mike Dorr, if you're watching, well done
Aw,
and
yeah.
congratulations, man. You were awesome. We're gonna miss you. I asked him if he was gonna be here tonight. He's like, "No way. I'm enjoying retirement." And so I'm hoping he's traveling and doing all those things that he's wanted to do. But he did a terrific job, and I know, like I said, we're in good hands with Ed and Jason. You guys are doing a good job, and just that's what we work hard for, and watch our colleagues and friends enjoy retirement. So that's all I have.
All right. Well, you've officially stolen both of mine then. I will say to the point about the field trip, I want to add my thanks. I thought that was fantastic. As I would love to do one on the buses. I also wouldn't mind getting us out and walking one of our trails or riding, one of the actual bus routes. Just and kind of be hyper-focused on some of those issues, just as an idea. The other thing I'll just mention, I sit on another board, and one of the things we do for those types of things is don't have the whole commission, and that way it doesn't have to be a whole, noticed and all that, and it can sometimes be easier. A little more work on you guys because you have to do it more than once, or at least offer it more than once, but that's an idea that I'll throw out there as well. And then, again, thank you to Mike Doer for his years of service. Congratulations again, and thank you, Ed. We are glad to have you here. If there's no other items, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion Festerson, second Radford. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you.
All right. Thanks.